L'chaim v'livracha, to life and to blessings.
Amen.
Are you stuck by your very nature? Our nature makes us stuck. Nature is stuck by being what it is, right? A flower can only be a flower. A lion can only be a lion. Can't be anything else. A lion can't wake up one day and say, I wanted to be a sweetie. I don't want to be king of the jungle anymore. I just want to be someone's sweetheart and just, cuddle up. Little kitten can't change its nature. We all have a nature that's given to us. It's called our genes. Some wear blue jeans, some wear white jeans, and some wear black jeans. What are your genes that have been given to you that you're stuck in? Some people like worn out blue jeans. They buy it for a higher price than freshly pressed new ones. Because we all have a nature that we nurture and get stuck with. We all have something about us that we want to get beyond. Our life's mission is in two places. In the place where we excel, right? The qualities that we have in us that are godly, good qualities that we excel. We have to hone them and make them better, excel even more so. That we get. That makes sense. But what we don't get and might not be so comfortable and might not even make sense is in the place where I am stuck. That's where also my purpose is. In the place where I have the biggest challenge, that is constantly a challenge, that too is where my purpose lies, into becoming beyond, unstuck from that nature that has been nurtured, right? That has given to me by God. So most of us would be fight or flight. No, it needs to be an engagement, an appropriate engagement. That's what needs to be. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege, a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We are concluding today the 13th letter of the Alter Rebbe in Igeres HaKodesh, in his holy letters. And he's speaking about here that there are two types of souls, two basic types of souls. Within the two basic souls, there's variations, of course. It's not black and white, right? But there's variations. One type of soul is from the right side, the other one's from the left side of the divine. That's why we have a right and left, by the way. And that's why in everything, there's a duality. There's up, there's down, there's in, there's out, right? Everything, when you think about it, has a duality to it, right?
Male, female.
Male, female, exactly. And so the souls are also have that duality. Some souls come from the right side, which is chesed, divine kindness, which is a soul that is expensive, means they do everything, to the ninth, to the nth degree, right? They make a gathering, it's my birthday. Drinks are on me for everybody, for friend and foe. Right? No, there's no limitation. There's no boundary. Giving is an expensive expression of the person. So there are people who serve God that way. They learn that way, an expensive nature. They pray that way. They do a mitzvah that way. Then you have those that come from the left, that they are contracted. They are limited, very measured in everything. That's not a negative. The limited is not negative. It is a type of soul that everything is measured to do it precisely, appropriately, the way it's supposed to be done. And they do it covertly, quietly. No, they're not expensive. I'm not talking here about boasting. The expensive nature, we're not talking about boasting. That's off the charts. That's not what we're talking about. From there will come boasting, right? From that kind of nature, right? Because you're expensive. So you're a show off, right? That's the negative side of it. We're not talking about the negative side. We're talking only the positive side of it, right? So on the negative side, on the left side, rather, the covert, this discreet, the quiet is that it's just between me and God. There's no expensiveness. That's just the nature of a holy way to serve God, very discreetly, learning, in a very in a quiet corner, praying in a manner that is, tearful, in also under the talus quietly. The giving is also measured. You give exactly what you're supposed to. You do exactly everything according to the letter of the law, the way you're supposed to do things. Right? Everything has its proper time and place. That's a soul that comes from the left side. Now again, there's mixtures of all of that, right? So which one is correct? Neither of them are correct. Because that's just the nature you were given, right? So in a sense, they're both correct, but that's not the point. What you've been given is not what you're supposed to now just deal with. Because if that's all you've been given, what does that mean? I'm only going to hone the talent that I've got. So I'm from the right or I'm from the left. That quality, I'm going to further that quality that I have. That's not correct. Because what you need is a mixture of the two. Holiness means inclusiveness. Unholiness means exclusionary. Exclusionary means this is my talent, this part of me. I'm the right, I'm the left, I'm excluding the other one because that one is a challenge, that one is a difficulty, that one is a pain. The Alter Rebbe says that every Yid, every Jew has to comprise both traits. So if your soul derives from Chesed, you have to incorporate Gvura. And if your soul comes from Gvura, you have to incorporate Chesed. Why? Why would that be? Why would that be? Because this is a quality of your soul that you have. Therefore, there's a place for it. There isn't only acting out of Chesed or acting out of Gvura. You have both qualities. One is dominant by you. One is the more expression of who you are. Means you have to work on the other one to bring and incorporate that in your divine service. Right? With this, we can understand something very interesting. We explained previously that Beis Shammai, in their rulings, were very stringent. Why? Because their souls came from Gvura, the left side.
Yeah.
Beis Hillel was lenient in their, right? Lenient. Why? Because they come from the right side. Chesed.
Yeah.
Chesed means to embrace. So you're going to you embrace more because you're lenient. You exclude more because you are more judgmental,
Yeah.
right? In a positive way, all in a holy way, right?
Yeah.
There are some instances that Beis Shammai was lenient, and Beis Hillel was strict.
Yeah.
How come? Because even though their nature was one,
Yeah.
they were holy people. Holy people means to include the other.
Yeah.
The only difference is which one is more dominant and which one takes a back seat. Which one is the front burner, which one's the back burner.
Yeah.
But both of them have to be incorporated in your service of God. So therefore, Shammai sometimes was lenient in his ruling, because in the end, holiness is that inclusion of both qualities. And in the Beis Hillel, we're sometimes strict because incorporating the Gvura in their right. So therefore, sometimes so the interesting terms over here. So Beis Hillel sometimes would be say that something is usser, which means prohibited. The word usser, what does it mean prohibited? Yeah. You can't do it, right? But the word means it's tied, it's bound. Yeah. It's tied up, right? Which is like gvura, contraction. Yeah. So they would, by the left side, right? And sometimes Beis Shammai, they would say it's mutter, that it is permissible. The word mutter means unbound, unleashed, no boundary, because it's untied, right? That's chesed. They would be an expression of that, right? So we need, the soul has both, therefore they need to include both. That is called holiness, because in holiness there is no division. In holiness there's no division. In that which is holy. Boundless. No. Boundless and not boundless. That both. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Both, right? Unlimited and limited. Yeah. Right? That doesn't mean, inclusion doesn't mean you include evil. We're not including evil here, right? We're talking about in the realm of holiness, the quality of chesed has to incorporate gvura. The quality of gvura has to incorporate chesed. Otherwise, it would not be holy. Yeah. Right? Is that clear? Yes. Mm-hmm. With this, and we can understand the story of Abraham when he took his son, Yitzchak, Isaac, right, the son that he loved, and brought him as an offering to God, right? As we know the story. The angel, after he does that, he says, Va'ata yedaiti, va'ata, there's with an ayin. What does it mean, va'ata, with an ayin? And now, very good. Now I know that you are Yireh Hashem, you're God-fearing. So all the commentators ask the question, what do you mean? This was the 10th test of Avram Avinu. It was his 10th and final test to show his devotion to God, right? Yeah. But he had 9 tests before that, and those were not a proof that he was a devoted to God. So, as the Alter Rebbe explains here, is Avram is the embodiment of which quality? Anybody know? Oh, no. Yeah, Chesed. Chesed. He is the embodiment of Chesed, right? He is the personifies Chesed. Havai, he is my beloved, right? Yitzchak is the opposite. He's Gvura, but not now. So he's the embodiment of Chesed, of kindness. Every test he had to do till then brought out more of a kindness in him. Yeah. This test is a test of Gvura, restraint, holding back, taking your son. That's not an act of kindness. Take your son and bring him on the mountain and bring him as an offering. That's not an act of kindness. But he did it. How could he do it? But you're such a kind guy. He's not a kind guy. He's a reflection of the divine. So his main character quality that God gave him was kindness, but he's a reflection of the divine. So if it means I have to use gvura, the opposite of what my nature is, I do it. And he did it with great gladness of heart. He did it without any question. He sat on his own donkey, which great people have servants that do that. He did it himself out of the love of God. He went quickly and without questioning, even though the act was the opposite of what his nature is. Why? Because he's a holy person, and therefore he is the embodiment. The embodiment of holiness, that he was able to use the attribute of gvura, and not like, this is tough. It wasn't tough, because this is what is needed, and therefore this is the way I need to act. This is the way he acts, period. right? And this is what the verse says, that Avram Oyavai, that he is my who loved me, and Yitzchak, it says about him, Pachad Yitzchak, the dread of Yitzchak, because he was the opposite. His nature was of Gevurah, the opposite of his father, right? Um, so, so what does it mean? Um, where was his love of God? Yitzchak. He had the dread of God. Where's his love of God? It was more in the back burner, but when it needed to come to the front burner, it came. And like Avram, the love of God was more in the front burner. But when it needed to have Gvura to be incorporated, it came to the front, it came to the forefront. So in other words, what we have is a nature that's going to be more the natural expression of who we are. But when needed, and I have to do the opposite of what my nature is, because that's what holiness is to be able to incorporate something that's the opposite of me, or my nature, or rather, right? To include that it is there. Now, Avram and Yitzchak, they're very holy people. So there for them, of course, they were able to access it instantaneously. For us, it might be a little more of a struggle and more difficulty, but at least we got to know this concept and to try to live with this concept and not get stuck in what our nature is.
Can you give us an example of an everyday struggle between Chesed and Gevurah?
My nature is to be very out there and to embrace people and to to connect. Well, what actually happened here yesterday by the women, as a matter of fact, but I won't go into names or anything like that, right? And a person was trying to engage somebody. And because kind, new person comes, you want to be nice and kind and you to engage, but the person was not open to it, so the person recognized, oh, you know what, they don't want that, so let me not try to embrace in such a way. Let me, but because the nature would be to, your nature is to embrace a person and to make them feel comfortable and so on. But sometimes by doing that, you're making the person uncomfortable, right? So you have to use. So you have to give them the space, right? Giving space is gvura, right? Holding back. You're contracting yourself. You're contracting yourself, right? And giving them the space that they could be. So that happened here yesterday. Okay. That's a good example? Yeah? Okay. So now let's go back to the verse that we had, King David. We started off this letter with a verse from King David that in it brings out these two ideas that we just spoke about. So Alter Rebbe now is just going to bring it out in the verse. That King David is actually saying this, right? As the Alter Rebbe explains it, right? So King David said that how abundant is your goodness, God's goodness, right? Which is hidden away for those who fear you. So what kind of person is that? What kind of person is that? A righty, lefty? Lefty, left, hidden, right? Covert, contracted, quiet, not making a fuss. That's a person whose nature is of the left, Gvura, right? That's the way God made them, right? However, what does the verse say? So that's where their soul is rooted. Is that clear? Yeah? But what is the verse saying? How abundant is your God's goodness in them? In other words, that goodness meaning chesed, right? Chesed meaning here that the kindness of God is there, but is there in a hidden fashion within the individual. But it's abundantly there. That's what's important. Even that person who is very by nature quiet, by nature reserved, by nature, and talking in the good nature, right? Because sometimes people are reserved out of insecurities. I'm not talking about someone who's insecure and therefore they're quiet, right? And therefore they don't say anything. That's an insecurity. That's animal soul. We're talking about here in the divine nature, in the good, right? That they're just, you do things that's how you get connected to Hashem by, you know, I don't need the whole hoorah to create, the atmosphere. I don't need the atmosphere. I could just be under my talis, quietly praying to Hashem and connecting. The noise sometimes is a distraction, right? That kind of person, right? That's their, again, God-given nature from their soul on the left, right? But what does it say? How abundant is your goodness? Meaning that they are given from God also the quality, but hidden within them is an abundant giving of the right. It's there. They just need to access it, right? It's hidden away within the individual. Because that's what it says of it. How abundant is your goodness, which you have hidden away.
Yeah.
Why hidden away? Why is it hidden? Because that's not your nature, but it's there. You can access it. You can be, even though your nature is, when you need to be. When you need to be, right? Like Avraham, he needed to have Gvura, so he had to have Gvura, right? He did it with his son to bring his son as an offering. It was an act of Gvura. He did that. So here, when you need to access that limitless kind of chesed, you'll be able to do that, right? And to give expansively, without contraction, because it's within you, it's vested within you, but you just need to be able to access it. And therefore, this will prompt a person to give expansively. What does it mean to give expansively? With no limits. How do you give without limits?
Bittul.
No, but no. Here it's your yes, but what does it mean to give without limits? What does it mean?
According to the need.
You give according to what the need is, not according to what the set limit is. There's a set limit of giving between 10 and 20%. That's the set limit, right? Which is a limitation of giving. But sometimes you need to give expansively. Does it mean all the time you have to give that way? That doesn't mean that. What it means that there might be times that you have to give in an expansive way without limit, which means not based on what the law says, right? But what the need is. So the need is whatever it is, and therefore you're giving in that expensive manner, right? This is what it's saying here. Giving staka unstintingly. So in other words, even the person who's of the left, right, who that's not their nature, they can access this chesed because it is in them. It is in them, but not in the forefront of their soul, but it is hidden within them, that they'll be able to arouse within them to give in such a manner. And as we said, there are two types of kindness from above, that there's a kindness that is a limited one, chesed olam, chesed of the world, and just as the world is limited, so the kindness is also limited. Then there's chesed, rav chesed, is a superior form of giving, which is got no, it's unstintingly. The other one is with opposition, shall we say, with gvura, and this derives from the level of soviv kol almin, of the encompassing light of Hashem, from Keser Elyon and Supernal Crown, and so on. So this was a letter that was given, in conclusion over here, was a letter that was given. The Alter Rebbe had emissaries who would go around to communities to collect money. And that money was used to send to the poor in the land of Israel, even though here it doesn't speak about that, but here just about and he says, so he says, these are the words of the one who loves you with all of his soul and who seeks your welfare and heartfelt and soulful longing. And he signs it with his name, the son of my master, my father, our mentor, Rabbi Baruch, which is his father.
Oh, wow.
He signs it. And asking everybody to give with an open hand, with a full heart, to give to this person who's bearing this letter and, reading it to the community, that they should give. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts?
Mom is by nature, you have more chesed.
Huh?
Is it possible someone's have chesed by nature, and because of the light, he turn or inside the gibulpa?
Absolutely, yes. Very good question. So, but we have to know that that's probably all the animal soul. Here, we're not talking about animal soul. We're talking about your godly nature. We're not talking about, right, how life has beaten somebody down, right? Beating you down is not a godly thing. Life can't beat you down from a godly perspective. From a godly perspective, life can only elevate you. Otherwise, it's not. Otherwise, otherwise, you are not taking something that's coming from God. You're taking something that came from whatever, evil, bad, and so on. Now, is that person bad for what they did? Yeah. But that it came to me is ultimately meant for me. God meant it for me. So that means it can only be but good. So if I'm taking, that was the 11th letter that we learned, right? We're in the 13th letter. In the 11th letter, we learned about that high bar, if you recall, right? Of what it means that everything is only good comes from God. So if I'm not taking it that way, it's not what we're speaking about over here in the divine nature that we have, right? But, the important point to appreciate the distinction from what here and what you're saying, being beaten down means the animal in me is not surviving, and I'm looking for survival. But that's only an animal instinct and not the godly nature that we're talking about over here, right?
I think, I don't know what source I read it, but basically, it's kind of like a boomerang effect that sometimes in order to jump very high, like for example, if you take a ball and you throw it down very hard, after that it jumps. So sometimes in order for us to rise very high, we first have to fall very low. Like you fall down very hard, but then you're gonna have a bigger aliyah, a bigger rising up. So the falling down by itself was positive because that was kind of like a force. The falling down, from the falling down, you're gonna rise much higher than if you didn't have the falling down.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to, yeah, absolutely. So Davida asks over here, interesting, and I want to ask everybody over here what you think. The Rebbe, was he the embodiment of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes? What do you think the Rebbe was?
I would say chesed.
You'd say Chesed, huh? Uh-huh. So we don't know. We don't know. We only know from what the Rebbe said that we could surmise. We don't know soul. I don't know souls. None of us know souls. A soul knows a soul. The Rebbe knows.
It's on his face.
So the Rebbe, from what he spoke about himself, in my estimation, was for sure Gvura. Yeah. The work that he did on himself, that he should be Chesed, right? It was
very reserved.
extremely reserved. Extremely reserved. Not mildly. Extreme. Except what he had to do. So he was completely out there. Completely out there. For him, that there is not a person in the history of mankind that was documented minute by minute of whatever he did. There's no such person that's ever documented that way. He had yeshiva students. A friend of mine, every time that what time he came in this day, what time he came in for Shachris, what did he do? What did he do by the Torah reading? What was he looking at? All documented. If you understand what a Rebbe is, is not a Rebbe goes like this, he is, the Rebbe would, by dollars, someone came to him and says that he had a terrible disease. They said, the doctors don't know what they're talking about. The Rebbe said, but the Rebbe going like that, it's gone. It's gone. And afterwards, and there's so many stories like this of people that they got, they got doctor's evaluation, and afterwards they come back and they say that it's gone. Why? Because a Rebbe goes like this, so we have no idea. A Rebbe is something, we have no, the difference between a righteous person and a Rebbe is more infinitely greater than what we are to the righteous. That's what a Rebbe is. Because a righteous just means, the righteous is unbelievable, but a Rebbe is a whole different story. So the Rebbe, by his nature, as we saw before he was a Rebbe, so private, extremely private, right? But yeah, that's what I would say. But what do we know? What do I know? What do any of us know about a Rebbe? Right? But anyways, it's interesting. Yes, Jeff. Usually, you marry your opposite. If you're Gvura, you're going to marry Chesed. If you're Chesed, you're going to marry Gvura. And therefore, you can complement each other. You can complement each other. Make sense? Huh? 37-year-old guy who's stuck mentally and spiritually in life. Well, learning Tanya, I hope this is helping you. I can't imagine anything more that would help a person that's stuck in life than learning Tanya. David is asking, do the wicked only embody Gvura? No, not at all. First of all, remember we're speaking on the holy level, right? But from Chesed, so how could Chesed become unholy? What do you mean, giving?
Give to the wrong thing, wrong cause.
Give to the wrong cause, right? You're giving to a drug addict money out of, without, that's not a good thing. How could so that's not coming from a good place. And that's not coming from your divine soul. That's coming from your animal soul. Your animal soul also has kindness. But the kindness will be for self-fulfillment.
Feeling pity for your enemies.
Yeah, so your kindness is not a reflection of the divine, right? So what would be the perversion of kindness? Lust, right? Lust is not holding back. Lust is, I lust for what I want. That's chesed of klipa, of the shell that covers over the holiness. Lusting, right? Being very needy and wanting. That will be the negative side, right? So the evil people don't only come from the left side; they can come from the right, just the same. From the left side, the perversion of it would be anger, right? Anger is, you're a fire. You're on fire with anger. I hope no one took any anger. I don't have any degree of anger to anybody here who said anything or did anything, an iota of it, because it didn't come from a bad place, right? If I had an anger, and therefore I had an anger towards a person, so then that would be not from a good place, right? I was only very, I hope it's only from a good place, But the perversion of that would be that you're angry at the person. That's klipa. That's evil. So, bad people and the bad behavior is both chesed and gvura of klipa. Right? Excellent question. Thank you.
And you have to have, in order to be a balanced person, you should combine both. Even though you.
That's the whole learning that was the whole learning that we had. That was the whole learning. Yeah. Yeah.
You have a tendency towards one extreme, you have to balance.
Right. So if you remember the beginning of the class, how we started, right? We started is that whatever you excel in is your purpose, and wherever you have a challenge with, then a constant challenge, that's your purpose, just the same, right? So what you excel is what your natural divine soul comes from, and you'll excel in that, right? That's your purpose, and you got to work on that at the same time. In other words, make it even more, right? Just like a sport, someone who plays sports, right? Whatever they excel in, well, that's what, if they excel being when playing in hockey, they play defense. They're very good at defense, so they got to practice to begin, right? They're going to excel in that area, right? The difference over here is in life, it's you don't work just on what you excel on. The part where you have a challenge, because it's not your nature, you have to work on developing that too.
What about channeling certain midos, which might even be bad midos, into good? Like a person, for example, who's stubborn by nature, so he teaches himself to be kind of have willpower in matters of kedusha,
right?
Or other
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And it was when I said the Rebbe's nature, maybe it is Tiferes. Some people online are. Again, do I know the Rebbe's soul? What it's all acute conjecture. But well, one thing we know is he was extremely private individual, right? And in the end, he was more out there than any other person. He was both the most private and the most public person at the same time. Henya, is it appropriate to be one behave angry as controlled way of showing boundaries? If you're showing anger and not being angered is one thing.
I think with a child.
Yeah, so sometimes,
teach him that he did something wrong.
So to show anger is one thing, to be angry is another thing, right? Show anger is, you need to show anger. Yes, absolutely correct. Yeah. All right, amazing. All right, folks, Rambam is coming up. Thank you all for joining. 6:30 tonight, Torah studies, don't forget, and TRC at 8 p.m. Thanks.
That was said mainly. Yitzhak.
What
What was Yaakov?
Tiferes, the middle.
Tiferet is a combination of the two.
Yeah.
It's the middle.
Yeah. Which maybe the Rebbe was Tiferes. It could very well be.